Spring 1976, Nice, France. An ordinary photographer walked into one of the country's most secure banks. His name was Albert Spaggiari. To everyone else, he looked like a normal customer. But he was about to test a security flaw that no one had ever noticed.
Monsieur, voici la clé de votre
Albert
coffre-fort.
rented a safety
Merci
deposit
beaucoup,
box
madame.
and secretly placed a
Votre signature
small
est
alarm
parfaite, tout
clock
est en ordre.
inside.
Excellent.
He set
Je
it
vous
to ring
remercie.
at midnight,
Bonne journée.
locked the box, and left. That night, the alarm rang deep inside the vault, but no guards came, no alarms sounded, no police arrived. At that moment, Albert discovered the bank's biggest
Perfect. Hold
weakness.
that pose. Beautiful
It had no
smiles.
sound
All
detection
right, now
system.
turn towards each
The
other a
quiet
bit.
photographer
Like
wasn't
this?
just taking
Yes,
pictures
perfect.
for a
One
living.
more.
He had once served
This
as
will
a
be the
French paratrooper and had spent years carefully
On ne peut pas
planning
rester
the
ici.
perfect robbery.
L'hélico nous couvre.
For more than a
Faut
year,
avancer.
he
Pas le
secretly
choix.
studied the bank's routines, security guards, and daily operations. While everyone believed the vault was
Monsieur, un
impossible
instant, s'il
to
vous plaît.
break into,
Oui, que se
Albert
passe-t-il?
had a completely different
vérification de
idea.
routine.
He wasn't
Monsieur.
planning to enter through the front door. He
Deep
was searching
underground,
for
this vault
another way
safeguards
in.
wealth beyond measure.
And that single
Thousands of
idea would
boxes,
soon
each with
become the
its
beginning
secrets.
of one of the
Here,
greatest
hidden
bank
treasures await
heists in
discovery.
history. Albert had found the
These
bank's
old
weakness.
sewers must connect
Now,
with-
he needed a way inside. Instead of studying the vault, he explored the forgotten sewer tunnels beneath the streets of Nice. Night after night,
1, 2, 3,
carrying
4
only
steps
a
from the last
flashlight and
mark,
old city
marking the
maps,
new
he
section on the
searched
map.
for a hidden route.
Compass says north
After
by
weeks of
northwest.
exploration, he made
Let's
an
check the next
incredible
junction.
discovery.
8
A storm
meters.
drain passed
Final
just
measurement.
8 meters beneath the bank's
Yes,
vault.
it's done.
Albert knew he couldn't do it alone. He quietly recruited a team of skilled
Hit the target
welders,
and done.
locksmiths,
We move in
and
teams.
former
Precision is
soldiers,
key.
men he
No
trusted to
mistakes.
keep the
No turning
plan
back.
secret.
Understood?
Then the digging began.
Keep tight, lads.
Every
Watch
night
your
for
step.
nearly 60 days, the
Aye,
crew
walls
worked
rising
underground in complete darkness. They dug by hand, hid the excavated dirt, and pushed forward despite toxic air, flooding, and exhaustion. Finally, after 2 months of
fumes.
relentless effort,
He's down.
they
Grab
reached
him.
the
I
concrete
got his
floor
arm. Pull.
directly beneath
Can't
the
breathe.
vault. Only
Almost there.
one
Hang on.
obstacle remained.
Keep pushing.
Albert
Almost.
carefully chose Bastille
it.
Day weekend,
The
when the
final layer.
bank would stay closed for 4 straight days. Now the tunnel was
16th.
ready.
That's
The
day.
crew was prepared, and the greatest
Tunnel
bank robbery
leads
in
to
French
secrets.
history was about to begin. On the night of July
All right, let's move.
16th,
Stay close.
1976,
Got it.
Albert
Equipment's
and
heavy.
his
Stay
team
tight.
entered the tunnel
Copy.
for the
Lights on the
final
walls.
time.
Breathing's getting
Carrying
rough.
drills,
Push on.
cutting tools, and supplies, they slowly reached the floor beneath the bank's vault. Working in complete silence, they carefully broke through the concrete until a small opening appeared. Albert climbed inside.
All right, door's
For the
clear.
first time in history, someone had
Whoa,
entered
look at all
France's
these
most
boxes.
secure bank vault without using the front door. Before touching a single deposit box, he made one brilliant move. He welded the massive vault door shut from the inside. Even if someone discovered the
everyone.
robbery,
We rest
nobody
here.
could get in.
Finally, some
The crew
food.
then began opening
Wake me
safety
when it's
deposit
over.
boxes one by one.
Tools are ready.
Inside were stacks of cash, gold bars,
Get the
diamonds,
press.
and valuable
Open 'em all.
jewelry worth
Got it.
millions.
Moving to the next.
Everything was going
This one's
exactly
full.
as
Keep
planned.
it coming. Pile it
But
up.
just
We
as
need
victory
everything.
seemed certain, a powerful storm hit Nice. Rainwater rushed into the sewer system, threatening to flood their only escape route. Albert immediately ordered his team to grab the valuables and
Time's
leave.
almost
The
up.
robbery was complete.
We have to
Now,
move
their only goal was getting out before the tunnels disappeared
second
beneath the
counts.
rising water.
As floodwater rose through the tunnels, Albert ordered his crew to leave immediately. Before escaping, they left behind one final surprise. Using different colored markers, each team member painted a single letter on the vault wall. Together, the message read, "Without
Water's
hatred,
rising. We have to go.
without violence,
Back. Get back.
without
This
weapons."
way. Hurry. Don't look
Within
back.
hours, the crew vanished through the underground tunnel,
Move.
each
Get it
heading
all.
in a different
Got it.
direction.
Bags are filling. Faster.
When the
To
bank
next
reopened
locker.
after the holiday
Clear the
weekend,
shelves. We're out in 30.
employees noticed something was
Go,
wrong.
Go.
The massive vault door wouldn't open. Police spent hours cutting through the welded steel door. What they discovered inside was unbelievable.
We have
Hundreds
to
of
warn
safety
them.
deposit boxes had been
I'll start
forced
painting.
open. Empty wine bottles, food, and air mattresses were still
Leave
inside,
this place.
as if the
Grab the
thieves had
bags.
made
Move.
themselves at home.
They're heavy. Keep pulling.
Then,
into the
an
tunnel.
officer noticed a
Ah,
small hole
it's
in the
flooding.
corner of the vault
Faster,
floor.
Don't stop. I see
Shining
light
a
ahead.
flashlight into it, he uncovered the hidden tunnel that led deep into
Why
the
won't
city's
this
sewer
damn
system.
thing open?
France was stunned.
Help! I need
The
help over here.
impossible had happened.
It's stuck. Come on.
The robbery quickly became known around the world as the heist of the century. The robbery had stunned all of France. For weeks, investigators searched every possible
This place
lead,
is unstable.
questioning criminals,
a picnic
raiding
table
hideouts,
untouched.
and tracking stolen
Valuables
money
all
across
over
the
the floor.
country. Yet despite their efforts, the masterminds behind
An
the robbery
unbelievable
seemed to have
discovery shocks
vanished
the world.
without a trace.
Crowds gather as news spreads.
Then,
The government
months later,
confirms the event is real.
the investigation
world
took an
will never be the
unexpected
same.
turn.
This
A
connects the
former
warehouse
girlfriend
to
of one of the
suspect.
crew members
Sir, Prince Match,
walked into a
uploading
police
now.
station
Good.
and shared
Cross-check the
information
timeline.
that
Timeline
changed
updated, sir.
everything.
It's solid. Copy.
Her statement led detectives from one suspect to another,
What is it?
and
I saw who
eventually,
did it. I
every
saw
clue
it.
pointed to
Tell me
one
everything.
man,
The warehouse,
Albert
they're coming.
Spaggiari. In
Albert,
November
you're on. Stop.
1976, Albert was arrested at Nice airport. Unlike most criminals, he showed no fear. He smiled as cameras flashed around him, calmly admitting that he had planned the robbery. But there was one thing he refused to do. No matter how many hours he was questioned, Albert never revealed the names of his teammates. Police tried everything. They pressured him, offered reduced punishment, and demanded the identities of the crew.
You'll never hold me.
Instead,
Stop, don't do it.
Albert
Too late.
misled investigators with false names, fake addresses, and confusing stories that wasted valuable time. Even behind bars, he remained completely in control. Then came the most unbelievable moment of the entire case. On March 10, 1977, Albert was taken from prison to the courthouse in Nice for another round of questioning.
10 years imprisonment.
The atmosphere was calm, and no one expected anything unusual. As the investigating judge examined a document Albert had handed him, Albert quietly stood up and walked toward the open
Where are
window.
the assets? What are you hiding?
Within seconds,
The
he
public
made his
deserves
move.
answers.
He leapt from the second-floor window, landed on the roof of a parked Peugeot, rolled onto the street, and climbed onto the back of a waiting motorcycle. The rider accelerated instantly. By the time police officers reached the window, Albert had already disappeared into the streets of Nice. Despite a nationwide manhunt, authorities never captured him again. His daring courthouse escape became almost as legendary as the robbery itself, turning Albert Spaggiari from a notorious bank robber into one of the most famous fugitives in French criminal history. After escaping France, Albert Spaggiari lived under false identities, moving between different countries while staying one step ahead of the authorities. Although a French court sentenced him to life in prison, he never returned to serve that sentence. Most of the stolen fortune was never recovered. Millions in cash, gold, and diamonds simply disappeared. And many victims never reported exactly what they had lost because some valuables had been kept in secret. Years later, Albert published a memoir about the robbery, inspiring books, films, and documentaries. His story became one of the most famous heists ever recorded. In 1989, Albert died from lung cancer at the age of 56, but his legend survived. More than 40 years later, the Société Générale robbery is still remembered as one of the smartest bank heists in history.
The government
Not because of violence
confirms
or weapons,
the event is real.
but because of patience,
The
planning,
world
and brilliant
will
strategy.
Never be the same.
Albert left behind one unforgettable message. Without hatred, without violence, without weapons, and with nothing more than an alarm clock, an underground tunnel, and a perfectly timed holiday weekend, he pulled off a robbery the world still talks about today.